Questions have risen. Jay's taken a deep breath about Giannis' future. That means I need to buckle up. Sources tell ESPN that Giannis is expected to remain a Buck next year. However, that is far from a certainty, and things may change this offseason. Last week on First Take, Stephen A. shared his thoughts on how he'd view Giannis without winning another championship. Let's flash back.
Underachiever. I'm going to tell you why. He's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. 9 All-NBA selections in his career, 9 All-Star selections, and top 10 finishes in league MVP voting 9 times. And he has more of that than postseason series wins. That's unacceptable. You don't look at somebody that dominant, that fantastic, with that kind of fire in his belly to compete on a night-in, night-out basis, and all you have is one championship to show for it.
Paging Jay Will.
Well,
he's sitting next to me on TV. It looks like I pointed the wrong way.
Paging to me.
Yeah. I'm old.
That was one of your worst takes I've heard in a long time, man. That was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, like I'm the little brother that is filled with the venom sometimes when you and I go at each other, and it's all love because it's always love. But I think we really need to do a better job of reframing some of these conversations, right? And if you were to say that the franchise, the Milwaukee Bucks, have underachieved or are the biggest underachievers with the talent of Giannis, fair. But a guy who has a 50-point closeout game, a guy who's never chased any of these dream team scenarios, a guy who is a finals MVP, a guy who's a multi-time All-Star, All-NBA, all-everything, global face of the game. The fact that he brought an NBA championship to Milwaukee, in the midst of the fire that he did, to call him an underachiever, I just think is an asinine comment. Because then if we go through history, we're calling a lot of these other great players who have won one NBA championship, which, by the way, you know how hard it is to win a championship? It's one of the hardest. It's like, okay, my college career, I'm an underachiever because my freshman and my junior year, we lost to Florida in the Sweet 16 and we lost to Indiana in the Sweet 16. And both of them went on to lose in a national championship game, but I got one my sophomore year, so I'm an underachiever because I should have more. So you're calling Allen Iverson an underachiever. You're calling Dirk an underachiever. You're calling KG an underachiever. You just called Oscar Robertson an underachiever because they've all got one championship and because their talent is so great that in your mind, if they don't win more than one, if their career ends with only one championship, which just sounds crazy to say that would have negative connotation in it, which I think, frankly, is part of your job, having the seat that you have, having the career that you've had, right? We got to frame these conversations because there's no way in hell anybody who watches basketball, who knows the level of greatness that comes along with Giannis, would say that he's an underachiever. Now, maybe Giannis might think to himself quietly, hey, I wish I could have got more championships. But I think anybody who's won a championship knows how everything needs to align perfectly, from front office to coaching to personnel to the ball bouncing the right way every single time for it to pivot for you to win a championship. Just had to say that, man.
A couple of things. Well, first of all, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to call your take asinine. A matter of fact, it's a bit worse than that because you're ill-informed, because clearly you didn't listen to what I had to say. Maybe you were stuck in traffic. Maybe you were negotiating another business deal. Maybe you were doing another one of your shows because you are a very, very busy and successful man, but you didn't listen to my full take. I specifically stated that Giannis is one of the greatest players to have ever lived. Mm-hmm. Giannis is phenomenal. Giannis is going to go down as one of the all-time greats. But when you're that great and you have one championship on your resume, people are not going to look at you the same. Perfect example, case in point, is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has won a league MVP 3 or 4 times in the National Football League. Aaron Rodgers has been to several conference championship games. Aaron Rodgers is destined for the Hall of Fame. Aaron Rodgers won one Super Bowl and has appeared in one Super Bowl and hasn't been to the Super Bowl since 2010. And look at how people are talking about him. Why? Because you look at a guy like Brady, you look at a guy like him and Patrick Mahomes and others, and you're saying that Aaron Rodgers' talent was on that level. There's no questioning his greatness and what he brought to the table, but you still find yourself saying, just one? We look at Josh Allen, who doesn't have one yet. We look at Lamar Jackson, who doesn't have one yet. And what do we say? There's an immense amount of pressure. You got football players, current and former, that look at them and they say, yo, what are you going to do? Why? Because they're asking for you to knock down the door. You look at those kind of situations. You brought up Allen Iverson. Well, Allen Iverson carried at 6 feet, 165, carried the team on his back, and the only thing that prevented him from winning a championship was Kobe and Shaq in their prime. But Patrick Ewing didn't win a championship. Hold on. Patrick Ewing didn't win a championship. Karl Malone didn't win a championship. John Stockton didn't win a championship. It doesn't stop them from being Hall of Famers. It doesn't stop them from being appreciated. But when you think about a conversation and what it entails about a player, when you're talking about their epitaph professionally and what they brought to the table, while recognizing their greatness, you do lament the fact that it was one title. Jerry West was the silhouette. Jerry West went to like 8 or 9 NBA finals, but he had one championship. There were people who appreciated his greatness, and then there was others who questioned why was he the silhouette. And they brought those questions into focus because you knew they were so great that you expected more. So sometimes when we look at it, we look at Kevin Durant, whether it's fair or unfair. Oh, he departed from OKC. He goes to Golden State. He wins 2 championships, 2 NBA Finals MVP. Would have won 3 if he hadn't torn his Achilles, because I believe they would have swept Toronto. What do? We lament what hasn't been achieved. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's right. I remember when I came on the air when Boston won the championship, and the Durant crew was very upset at me because what I said was, yo, it's not fair. It's not right. But if Steph Curry wins the championship in Boston, what's going to happen is that Kevin Durant, you left that for Kyrie Irving, and people were going to bring that up. What happened in the immediate aftermath of them beating Boston? People were bringing that up. I didn't say it was right. I didn't say it was fair, but knowing the public the way that I do, being a journalist for 30 plus years, understanding what the narratives are going to be, etc., me pointing that out is not me throwing shade on them. You're taking it as if I threw shade on Giannis, and I'm doing no such thing. I'm recognizing his greatness. I'm simply saying if he only has one championship to show for it, and you're going home in the first round every other time like they have the last 2 or 3 years, people are not going to talk about him in the way he deserves to be talked about because the one championship is all he has to show for it. Well, that's just reality. I'm not saying it's right, but it's reality.
But Stephen, you drive these narratives. You drive the narrative.
That's not true. I'm not the only one.
I know you're not, but hey.
I'm not the only one.
But I think we both will agree, though, you're the one, though. You're the one. You're the man. You sit in the seat.
But time out. Can't you decipher the difference? Can't you decipher the difference between me saying, I'm just asking a question, Jay. I'm just asking a question. Yep. Can't we decipher the difference between me saying, yo, this is what's going to happen, and me saying it's totally fair? I didn't say it was totally fair. Just like I didn't say it was totally fair about Kevin Durant, but I said it was going to happen. And I was right.
But Stephen A.,